So hi and welcome to another one of the Taking Control series, which is a series of interviews to help you take control of different aspects of your fertility journey, whichever point you're at. So today we are speaking to the lovely Rosie Tadman, who owns a company called Rosie Life. She's a nutritional therapist and coach, so she specialises in fertility, female hormones and pregnancy as well. So hi Rosie.
Hello, it's lovely to be here. Lovely to see you on Zoom.
I know, it's been a while and it's nice to at least see each other again, even if it's not in person, but
Definitely.
Much nicer in person. So thank you so much for talking to me today and sharing your wisdom on all things nutrition. So could we start off today just by talking about why it's so important to think about your body and nutrition when you're trying to conceive?
Course. I mean, our health, including egg health, sperm health, womb health, is all linked to how likely we are to conceive and how healthy our baby is ultimately going to be when you do conceive. So if you think of nutrition as the raw kind of building blocks for our body, and they fundamentally build everything in our body, including our fertile parts of ourselves like eggs and sperm. So it's massively important to not only increase your chances of conception, but also ultimately the health of your baby.
Yeah, and how soon would you say you should start thinking about this? I mean, obviously as soon as possible, but what sort of time does it take to make a difference, say, to things like sperm health, egg health, womb health?
So I would say like the preconception period is 3 months. So that's roughly how long it takes for new sperm to grow and for eggs to mature. So that's definitely, say for my clients who are going through IVF, that's kind of the window of opportunity I say that you've got. I always feel really sad when someone kind of calls me and they're like, I'm starting IVF like next week. What can you do to help me nutritionally? And I'm like, not a lot in a week. Like, you really need that time. That said, say if I've got a client who's maybe got thyroid issues or endometriosis or polycystic ovaries or some kind of more like hormonal imbalance there, that might take a bit longer to kind of get that back into balance. So you might need another kind of few months to kind of balance things out, but at least 3 months for your egg and your sperm.
Okay. And if they say came to see you, what sort of work is it that you would do with them to help them then?
So my work is about getting your body back into balance. So as a nutritional therapist, I can't say I treat. That's kind of left for the medical profession. But say my work is around supporting clients with, as you might expect being a nutritional therapist, food. It's also supplements, but also it's more kind of nuanced than that. It might actually be helping a client with their gut health. So say with nutritional therapy, we don't say you are what you eat, but you are what you absorb, drink and think. So quite often, for instance, I see clients who they're eating really nutrient dense food, but their digestive system really needs support and they're just not absorbing those nutrients. Or it might be more tailored support, say for someone that's got hypothyroid. So it would be, how can we support those with the specific nutrients they need to support their thyroid to function, to therefore ovulate regularly and then get them pregnant. So it can be quite broad, but equally it can be very specific depending on what the client needs, really.
And that's something you'd look at on an individual basis then, I guess you'd speak to people about on an individual basis. And what difference can sort of things like eating well do for your body then?
Like a massive difference. Like the term nutrigenomics, which that is, so nutrigenomics is nutri, so nutrients, genomics are genetics. And we know that food can switch on and off certain genes within our body, which that in itself is just like mind-blowing. Like what we eat can affect our genes and how they present.
Yeah.
And I think we've got such a window of opportunity of having 3 meals a day of fuel in our body that can either really nourish our body and get it back into balance, or equally not. So yeah, what, when someone's asked the question, then you're like, I can't actually remember what the question was, but I think it was, how can it affect fertility? Is that right?
Yeah, how can it affect the things in your body and your fertility?
Yeah.
So what are the most important things to consider then in terms of nutrition for people? Say if they're trying to conceive, they're considering that possibly they may need IVF, but not necessarily. So what are the most important things?
So I would say most important things, yes. I would say the most important things is, if you have got issues with your digestive system or gut health, resolve those. Let's say the person in front of me has resolved those. What's the next thing that they would do? Generic things, and it's always hard to give. I feel like the longer I've been doing what I've been doing, the harder it is to give generic advice, because you see more of the nuances. That said, generic things to follow would be, you need to have a well-balanced protein, fats, and carbohydrates within your diet. So I know one of the things I was talking about on Instagram stories this morning was making sure you're having a nutrient-dense breakfast. So for instance, like cereals, it's pure carbs. There's not really any nourishment within cereal. If you've got to fortify a food, it is not nutrient dense. So changing from something like cereal to breakfast to something like even as simple as toast with nut butter on it. You've got protein, fats, carbohydrates, lots of nutrients. Something like eggs with avocado, some spinach, making sure, again, proteins, fats, carbs, and not fearing those fats. So I see lots of clients who are following kind of your low fat type diets, like kind of your slimming clubs endorse, and all of our hormones are built on fats. So it's really important to not do that. Obvious things like make sure you're having lots of fresh vegetables, eat the rainbow. Don't just kind of have the same 5 vegetables every day, because we know our gut and our digestive system loves diversity, and it doesn't want just broccoli, peas, carrots, courgettes, and tomatoes every day. It wants lots of variety. So try and aim for like 30 different vegetables, plant-based food over a week is kind of a good kind of rule of thumb. Even more basic things, and I think sometimes the basic thing, it's like, oh, yawn, boring, like tell me something more interesting. But even simple things like just drinking water is really key. Staying hydrated, especially for men. We don't want them swimming in honey, we want them swimming in water. And so making sure you're drinking enough is vital. Kind of a boring thing to mention because people are like, I know. Other really generic things, but across the board is important, is getting rid of plastic for fertility. So not heating in plastic, not drinking out of plastic. There's so much research to show it really affects sperm health. And equally then, I would say, well, if it affects sperm health, like sperm are like canaries in the coal mine. Like if it affects sperm, because they're so tiny, they're quite fragile, then although there might not be a double-blind clinical trial to say it affects egg quality as well, I'm like, well, if it affects sperm in such a dramatic way, let's presume it is not good for us in general. So the main ones would be switch to a stainless steel bottle, so a water bottle, and don't heat in plastic.
Okay, so avoid those. That's great advice. It's brilliant to sort of hear that from you. And like you say, with things like water, it is something that's simple, that's mentioned, but still, me included, don't follow it as much as we should do. I was going to ask something. Oh, you mentioned, and I know we've spoken before about kind of these slimming things, slimming plans, things like that. And I know how you feel about some of those. But it is something that comes up quite a lot when I speak to people, that they are being asked to get their weight down so that they can qualify for NHS treatment. What advice would you give for people doing that, who are looking at things like slimming plans as a quicker way and a sort of a more, I think people see them as a good way of reducing weight quickly? What would you advise them on how they could lose it in a safer, sort of better way, should we say?
Yeah, good question. And I see lots of those people that kind of come to me that have, well, my doctor said I've got to lose this much, otherwise I'm not eligible for funding. What can I do? So the first thing that I'd say about weight loss in general is it's not just calories in, calories out that's important. There are kind of lots of things to consider. So the first one, and this wouldn't actually be necessarily me who would support with this, depending on kind of their relationship with food, but it would be, what is your relationship with food and yourself? So quite often when people are overeating, eating the wrong foods, it's because they don't have a good relationship with food or themselves. And in actual fact, counselling and some sort of talking therapy might be beneficial. So say if that is you, yes, I can support you, but alongside another health professional who can help you with that. I would say the other thing for weight loss is the way you talk about food is really important. So no food is good, no food is bad. There might be foods that are nourishing and not nourishing, but let's move away from this black and white, good and bad, because all that happens is when you have this bad food is you then feel bad, you then feel guilty, and then you eat more of it and you get in this vicious cycle. So the amount of times on calls, you know, someone will say, oh, Rosie, I've been really naughty, had a chocolate bar. And I'm like, that's not naughty. There's nothing naughty about having a chocolate bar. So yeah, way we talk about food. The other thing I would say is make sure you get your thyroid checked, because if there is actually an underlying, even subclinical thyroid issue, then that can make it hard to lose weight. It's not just calories in, calories out. One of the best things you can do to support sustained weight loss is have 3 solid meals, no snacking. So actually having periods of fasting is one of the best ways to lose weight and not plateau. And moving your body is key, but not moving in a way that's going to stress the body, raise that cortisol, because when your cortisol and stress hormones are raised, you struggle to lose weight. So I'm talking about things like HIIT. Wow. They're the things to avoid, and actually more go for kind of lower, slower paced exercise. Mm-hmm. And the final one for weight loss that I would always say consider is nutrient density is key, because if your body isn't getting the nutrients it needs, a way to it, what it does to actually protect itself is it makes you feel hungry. And that might not feel like it's protecting you when you want to lose weight, but if you're not getting those vital nutrients, your body's like, well, if I make sure you're hungry and you eat more, there's more chance that I will get those nutrients. Yeah. So in actual fact, if you can front load it with nutrients, you're less likely to feel hungry. So I know with lots of my weight loss clients who have maybe also worked with a counsellor alongside, so we've both done it together, is, you know, they've said, I'm actually just not as hungry than I was before, like, and it's kind of blowing their minds that they're like, this is so bizarre. And they're like, this is so weird, like fats keep me full, like, so I don't need to snack. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty amazing once your body gets used to fueling on protein, fats, and, you know, add in some good healthy veg, like you don't need to constantly eat.
Yeah, that's great advice, because I think it is very easy, and not criticizing any kind of different plans or anything, because I know a lot of people that's worked for, but for sustained good health and a good way of losing it, it's a better option, and it's looking at it holistically, not just, as you say, the food that goes in and out. Are there any kind of myths that you hear quite a lot of people asking about? I mean, you mentioned people saying about chocolate bars being naughty. Are there any myths that you hear that you could either bust for us or kind of confirm that they are actually true and that they should be avoiding certain things or doing certain things? Things like the one that comes to mind is people say about eating pineapple core at certain points of treat, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that is like a half truth, because it's the pineapple core thing is like the bromelain in it that can like help with implantation. But I can't remember the exact amount of pineapple cores that you would need, but it was like insane to even make it worth it. So yeah, I would say that is definitely like a myth. The other one that sometimes I hear is like milk, like through a cycle, like to help with getting your protein up, and not to make you predisposed to hyperstimulation. So I'd say like protein is very important in IVF. Can be quite stripping of protein, some of the drugs, but like getting those not necessarily just through milk, but through pulses, beans, meats, eggs, fish, etc. is another way to do it. Yeah. What other myths are there? I'm trying to think of the ones that people ask me now. I suppose other ones are like people like, oh, should I cut out gluten? That is kind of something that people often ask during fertility. There is a lot of research to say that they have done control groups and found that the group that cut out gluten was more likely to have successful implantation. I would say gluten, the thing is, like dairy, is for some people it can be inflammatory, but not necessarily for everyone. Yeah. So if you were going to go for eat gluten, make sure that it's like your indigenous grains. So these are your like the grains that aren't new, like wheat, and go for more things like spelt and rye. They would, if you can tolerate gluten.
Yeah.
And I suppose the biggest one is the myth of want to lose weight, so I cut out fats. Fats will make me fat.
Yeah.
For the people that are trying to lose weight, the treatment.
Like you were saying, that actually they fill you up more, and you do need that group in there.
Definitely.
And you mentioned before about supplements as well. I know that there's certain supplements that are recommended when you're trying. Is there anything that you would recommend or that you'd like to say about supplements for people?
I'd say quality is key. So going for, I mean, do you remember? I always remember when I was at an IVF Babble event doing a talk. That event, like, I remember. And it was sponsored by Pregnacare. And someone asked me what I thought about Pregnacare. And I was like, I don't like Pregnacare. And I was like stood in front of a Pregnacare banner.
I do remember.
Yeah, and it was like, luckily, it was all taken in good humour and the organisers found it funny. But like they are full of binders and fillers, and because it makes them stable and it makes them, they can sit on the shelves for a long time. But that takes our liver a lot of time to process those binders and fillers, and we don't want to give additional burden to the liver. So just moving to something without binders, without fillers, just something like Cytoplan are a really lovely one, Viridian, Seeking Health. There are lots of lovely brands out there that haven't got binders and fillers. And I'd say for most people, also taking an omega-3 would be beneficial as like a baseline. So prenatal omega-3, that's like basic. And I'd recommend that to 99% of people. And the other one is vitamin D, making sure, especially this time of year, autumn, winter, that we're getting enough vitamin D, because it can be hard. And although those prenatals will have a maintenance dose, most people would probably need to top up above and beyond the maintenance dose for at least a month or two at this time of year. And vitamin D is, although it is a nutrient, it actually acts more like a hormone, and that can even impact things like testosterone and therefore sperm production and egg quality and hormonal balance. So really key. Oh, and also just flippant, and also it has been shown to support the immune system. And now with COVID, even your conventional medics are saying, everyone make sure you're taking vitamin D. It's so important for the immune system. So not just important for fertility, although it is also important for your immune system.
And that, going from what you've said there, is for men and women as well. So it's not just women who should be taking the supplements and vitamins, it's men as well. It can help them.
Definitely. And I think the male supplements, like things like Impril, I suppose the most common supplement is, although I don't see it as harmful, it's an expensive supplement for what's in it. So for me, like working with my clients, we kind of make our own concoction that's much cheaper, and it's actually got more kind of goodies in there. Yeah.
Oh, okay, brilliant. That's great. And if somebody wanted to come and work with you, what would you do with them? I know you sort of talked a little bit about that, and also then how can they find you as well if they would like to come and work with you?
Well, there's a few options. So if you're watching this and you're like, I just want to kind of maximize my fertility, I can't think of anything in particular that is wrong per se, I just want some pointers, then I've got an online fertility e-course, which is kind of generic fertility advice, kind of your basic yet brilliant advice is kind of how I would phrase it. And that's for people who can't afford necessarily to come and see me. It's priced at £29. But it's got loads of information. I know people who have done it have really enjoyed it. And you also get access to my practitioner supplement discount, so you can access some of those supplements as well. So that's for those people who just want to maximize, also maybe can't afford to come and see me because it's not cheap, being honest, to see, it's a lot of time, and that goes into working one-to-one and doing these tailored programs, and that isn't for everyone. Equally, if you did want to come on board for a one-to-one, that would start with an initial information gathering session. I then go away, write your plan, which would include further testing that I might recommend you ask either your clinic or GP or private test to do. It would include food, supplements, and also lifestyle recommendations as well. So that's kind of how it works one-to-one. So it's a much more tailored package.
So you're looking at each individual rather than some of that generic advice. It's specific advice, and I guess that's more helpful for those that have more underlying issues like gut issues, you were saying, and things like that.
Or equally, I know when some people contacted me, I've kind of said, well, I have got my e-course, why don't you watch the videos? Because it's about 4 hours to watch the videos. And some people are just cash rich, time poor. And, they're like, can you not just tell me what I need to do in an hour? And I'm like, fair dues. So I think, there is the option for those people who are time poor, more cash rich. If you do just want to get straight to it and come and see me that way, there's also that option.
And I suppose it's more specific then for them and gives them clear actions of what to work on rather than trying to work it out. So it's great there's a number of options. That's brilliant, thank you. Just before we finish, is there anything else you'd like to add or just recommend for people that they can do?
I would just say make sure you're ticking off some of those basics, those brilliant basics first of all. So getting outside, getting into nature every day, drinking your water, having your proteins, your fats, your carbohydrates, your good prenatal, your omega-3, making sure you're not drinking loads of alcohol, not smoking, some of those basic things. And often the people I see one-to-one are the people who have maybe done those things, but they've not got the outcome that they want. And then that's about delving further into it. And I think like nutrition for fertility and the body in general is amazing. It is so powerful. But I think also it's not to do myself out of any kind of client work. So not everyone needs this. It's like any sort of modality, like counselling or acupuncture or nutrition. Some people are naturally really healthy and they will be kind of doing all of this already and just need kind of maybe an online course or just something to point them in the right direction. But I think the final thing is it is just so powerful, and I think we just think of food as just fuel for the body. It's so much more than that, and it really can just, the fact it can support with things like endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, thyroid issues is it still blows my mind. Even now.
Oh, I know. Every time I speak to her, I was saying, oh, I'm really bad. I need to get better.
Really bad.
But no bad. It just I can eat nutritionally better. But it's also a quick win, really, isn't it? And it's, the whole point of this series is things that people can control themselves, and it is something that people can have full control over. And when we feel very much like when we're struggling to get pregnant, and if we find out that we do need treatment, we feel like a lot of our control is taken away. And nutrition is a place where we have full control over what we put in our bodies, don't we? So it's a really quick win, and some really great advice there that people can follow very easily, but know that there's that support there for anything deeper or more specific.
I think I often hear from clients, even before they conceive, they're like, these little niggly issues, whether it's reflux, whether it's bloating, whether it was acne, they're like, oh, like this has also resolved. Like the lovely thing about nutrition is all of these niggly little things that are going on are signs that you are not in optimal health, and therefore your fertility is most probably not optimized. So in optimizing your fertility, you're also optimizing your whole health. And I think like and I think often clients who call me and they want to work with me, they're not even bothered about that. They just want to do anything to conceive, which I totally get. But when those clients do conceive, like how much easier they find their pregnancy, their birth recovery, like you're teeing yourself up to be in such a strong position for one of the biggest life-changing events, that I just think it is such a gift that you can give yourself. You're such an opportunity to really, really nourish yourself.
Yeah, which is brilliant. Thank you so much. People can find you on Instagram, can't they?
Yeah, so it's Rosie Life Nutrition. And Rosie Life, that's my kind of website address, www.rosielife.org. So the best place to, I suppose, contact me, where virtually hang out, is probably Instagram. Direct message me, and I'm quite a fan of a voice note because I find it so much easier than messaging.
And predictable next.
Exactly. So send me a message and I offer everyone a 20-minute discovery call. So that is really important to have that call, just to make sure that future clients are clear what is within, what's out of scope, and so I can manage your expectations and also make sure that I'm the right fit for you, because it's really important to make sure that you do want to work with me as a person, as well as kind of how I work within the therapeutic model. That's key as well.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. And I'll share I'll share your website address when I share this. I'll share your Instagram post when it's on my website. I'll put the link to you as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lovely as always to chat to you, and thanks for your brilliant advice. I know it'd be really helpful, so thank you.
Good.
So take care and hopefully see you soon.
Bye, Sarah. Bye.
Bye.